But I do want to step outside of Portland for just a bit and talk about what's going on in Southern Oregon. Let's take a look at this map here. The New York Times, they have this COVID hotspot map. This is the country, obviously. Basically, these are the places where the virus is really spreading right now. And you can see the South in general is not looking great, not at all. But if you look at the West Coast, Oregon kind of stands out, right? Let's zoom in there. The Portland metro area is doing relatively well, we can say that, compared to a lot of the rest of the state, especially compared to Southern Oregon, including the Roseburg and Medford areas. Health officials say the surge in those regions, it's because people don't have the vaccine. They have low vaccination rates and that highly infectious Delta variant, which is quickly spreading to mostly unvaccinated people. What also doesn't help has been the local leaders in those areas, just refusing flat out to promote vaccines or masks or really any public health measure that is proven to slow the spread of this virus. We told you last week about commissioners in Josephine County spreading COVID misinformation. The Oregonian wrote about that this weekend in a big piece they published on the surge in Southern Oregon. They talked to a lot of people who are against getting the vaccine or against wearing masks or against both. But they also found some people who are doing everything they can to try and stop that surge, including a Roseburg resident named Ryan, who is our quote of the day. He told the Oregonian, "It's getting to the point now where in such a small community, everybody is going to know someone who is sick or dying." Now, last week I spoke to April Ehrlich, a reporter at Jefferson Public Radio who lives in and covers Southern Oregon. And she told me something similar about how the pandemic is affecting so many people.
In your experience as you've covered that area, have you seen any change? Have you seen any type of adjustment to the way people view the coronavirus and some of the steps that have proven to combat it or to save lives? Have you seen any growth in that direction? Or do you think that people are kind of stuck in the same place that they were a year ago?
If you listen to public meetings, it sounds like people are pretty stuck in their ways. But I'm willing to bet there's also a lot of people who are quieter, who are considering getting a vaccine, are taking those health measures, and are growing as they read more information about this pandemic and how it's impacting people and probably impacting their loved ones now.
Now, April also recently shared this message on Twitter about the situation in Southern Oregon that I thought was worth repeating. She wrote, "In my reporting, I aim to hold people in power accountable for their words and actions. If those words and actions bother you, dismissing the whole region as ignorant or telling us to go join Idaho isn't helpful. There are hundreds of thousands of real people living here. We're in a serious health crisis in which people are dying horrific deaths. Joking about constructing walls around Southern Oregon or barring our residents from going to ICUs in other parts of the state is harmful, hateful, and not funny in the least." And this is something that I think people should keep in mind, especially when talking about places where people might not share the same values or the same beliefs or political views. And yes, I understand fully that there is a lot of anger against people who have refused to get this vaccine. But like April said, it's not going to help to write off an entire part of the state that's going through such a crisis right now. They need support. Now, on that note, let's count some vaccines, shall we, to the people who are vaccinated. More than 2.65 million Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose. That's a little more than 63% of the state's entire population. And that includes everybody, even kids under 12 who can't get the vaccine yet. In Washington, more than 5 million people have gotten at least their first dose, and that works out to be nearly 67% of Washington's entire population, including kids. Now, we always show you the vaccine numbers every day, and some of you might be thinking, are they even moving? David emailed me and said, "Hey, Dan, could you please put up a graph of percent vaccinated versus time? It looks like we have stalled." So here's a look at Oregon's vaccine progress over time, and we did stall for quite a while. Daily vaccines started dropping back in April, and then they kind of leveled off this summer. But if you look at the end of the graph, vaccinations have started to tick back up again. A similar story in Washington, too. Vaccinations started dropping in the spring and level off in the summer, but in the past month or so, we've seen a change. They've started to slowly rise again. The same thing is happening across the country, honestly, especially in areas hit hard by the Delta variant. Officials say that they think that's because more people are seeing what this virus is actually doing to communities, what it can actually do to their loved ones and the people that live around them, and deciding then to get vaccinated themselves. Gary emailed me and said, "Hey Dan, can you tell the percentage of Oregonians over 65 that have at least one dose of the vaccine for COVID-19? We can. And we'll actually break that down for Washington, too. So in Oregon, 89% of people 65 and older have gotten at least one dose of the COVID vaccine. It's a little higher in Washington, actually, and nearly 94% of 65 and older, all folks 65 and older. These numbers are pretty consistent with the rest of the country, even in places that have low vaccination rates among the overall population. If you have any questions about COVID or the vaccine, let me know. Send them in. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or use that hashtag HeyDan on Twitter.